We live our lives under a comforting delusion. We perceive sleep as a sanctuary, a period of total cessation where the burdens of the world are lifted and our consciousness is safely tucked away in the void. We believe that when we close our eyes, the machinery of our minds grinds to a halt, allowing for a necessary, silent repair. But geology and biology tell a more malevolent story. The brain never sleeps, it never rests, while you are dreaming of winning an Oscar or indulging in a harmless fantasy. Your neurons are clocking in for a night shift that is far more active and far more dangerous than you can imagine. We have been sold a vision of sleep as a firmware upgrade for the soul, but the reality is that sleep is a desperate high-stakes maintenance cycle that is only one glitch away from a total, irreversible blackout of human consciousness. Today, we examine the clinical reality of a mind that is perpetually on, and the catastrophic consequences of a brain that refuses to stop. Welcome to Discovered. To understand the nightmare, we must first look at the cold, calculating science of nocturnal neuroactivity. Researchers from the University of Geneva and the Institut Pasteur have spent years spying on the sleeping brain. They sent volunteers into high-tech chambers loaded with sensors, not to provide them with a spa-like rest, but to hit their auditory systems with what is known as rough sounds. Roughness is a real physical property of sound, characterized by 40 to 100 modulations per second. It is the sonic equivalent of a slap in the face. These sounds are specifically designed to bypass the conscious mind and strike directly at the amygdala, the ancient, primitive part of the brain in charge of fear, emotions, and survival. Even in the deepest stages of sleep, the brain is hyper-vigilant. It is a sentinel that refuses to stand down. If it detects a rough noise, a scream, a siren, or a crying baby, it triggers an immediate intruder alert. It dashes the brain into full throttle while your body remains paralyzed in a state of REM. This is a survival mechanism, a relic of our prehistoric ancestors who lived in constant fear of the dark. But in our modern, overstimulated world, this vigilance has become a biological curse. We are living in an era of sonic siege, where our brains are never granted the silence they need to truly reset. We are forcing our neurons to work overtime in a factory of existential panic. Now, imagine the crazy maybe scenario taken to its clinical extreme. What if the human brain could fully operate at 100% capacity while we sleep? On the surface, it sounds like the ultimate productivity hack. We are told we could solve complex problems, learn new languages, and finish our professional obligations while drooling on our pillows. We imagine tapping into dreamy brainwaves to learn Japanese or solve equations through sleep learning. But this is the height of human arrogance. The brain does not want to learn Japanese while you snooze. It wants to survive the toxic load of its own existence. During the day, our neurons are firing at a rate that produces massive amounts of metabolic waste proteins like beta-amyloid that are linked to Alzheimer's and cognitive decay. Sleep is the only time the glymphatic system can flush this toxic sludge from the brain. If the brain is forced to operate at full capacity during the night, processing data, learning, and working, the cleaning cycle is cancelled. The waste accumulates. We would be solving math problems while our brains literally drowned in their own metabolic filth. This is not a productivity ninja strategy. It is a recipe for a rapid, neurotoxic liquidation of the self. The metabolic debt of an active brain is staggering. An active brain at night burns energy with a predatory intensity. If you wake up starving at 7 a.m., it is not laziness. It is neurochemistry. It is the sign of a system that has been stripped of its fuel. If we were to push the brain to full throttle during sleep, the body would be consumed from within. We would wake up not just hungry, but emaciated. Our muscles leached of glucose to feed the insatiable fire of our neurons. We would be a species of sleepwalking skeletons, our bodies sacrificed to the infinite processing demands of a mind that cannot turn off. The psychological gallows of this scenario is synaptic burnout. The human brain is a finite organ. It has a limited number of synaptic connections and a limited capacity for stimulation. If we eliminate the period of rest, we invite a catastrophic overactivation. You imagine waking up in a state of permanent panic because your dream was interrupted by a Microsoft Teams notification or a phantom email. We are already seeing the first flickers of this, the rough noise challenge of modern life, where sirens, screams, and the digital buzz of our devices have turned our nights into a migraine-inducing chaos. Too much nighttime activity leads to hypersensitivity. The brain loses its ability to filter the relevance from the noise. You would find yourself in a state of chronic hyper-arousal where a microwave beep sounds like an explosion and a gentle whisper feels like a searing intrusion. The sleep spindles, those bursts of brain energy that fire to defend against disturbances, would become frantic, chaotic flares. Your brain would be constantly shouting for silence in a world that refuses to provide it. You would lose the ability to distinguish the dreams of flying cows or sentient croissants from the traumatic reality of your 6th grade failures. The personality would dissolve into a PDF of unorganized data, stored in a brain that no longer knows how to file it. We must look at the general blackout of the human species. If we were to successfully bypass the need for sleep, we would trigger a global cognitive collapse. History provides us with grim reminders of what happens when the mind is denied its abyss. Thomas Edison and Salvador Dali practiced power napping to cheat the transition to deep sleep, using spoons or heavy objects to wake themselves just before they hit the threshold. They were seeking the theta wave update, the rock stars of creativity, but they were playing with fire. Prolonged sleep deprivation and overactivation lead to a state of toxic psychosis. In a world where everyone's brain is perpetually on, the social order would vanish. Innovation would grind to a halt because the mind can no longer prune useless thoughts. We would be trapped in a permanent loop of our own neuroses, incapable of creating anything new because our brains are too busy recycling the garbage of the day. The great blackout would not be a loss of electricity. It would be a loss of the alpha wave, the state of calm monk-like chill that allows for human empathy and reason. We would become a species of biological Wi-Fi, always connected, but never stable. The discovery that the brain sleeps with one eye open is a warning. It is a reminder that we are not the masters of our biology. We are the inhabitants of a high-maintenance biological machine that is smarter than we are. When your brain is filing memories and rewiring experiences at night, it is making choices for you. It is deciding which parts of your identity to keep and which to discard. If we interfere with this process, we are effectively hacking our own existence without a backup drive. We are installing a Theta Wave 2.0 update that is actually a virus. Consider the firmware upgrade metaphor. We are told that 8 hours of sleep equals a free firmware upgrade. But what if the update is corrupted? What if the brain, in its constant nighttime labor, decides that your conscious self is useless thoughts that need to be cleaned up? There is a clinical possibility that overactive nighttime neurons could begin to edit the wrong memories. You could wake up one morning with the perfect pitch of Japanese, but without the memory of your own mother's face. You would have traded your history for a language you have no one to speak to. This is the Inception meets Survivor reality, a world where the brain is pulling an all-nighter for itself, and you are just a passenger in a suit and tie, shaking hands with a neuron that is erasing you. The abyss of the mind is necessary. We need the airplane mode that our biology provides. We need the silence. Without it, the rough sounds of the universe will eventually shred our sanity. We are currently standing at the edge of a neurochemical precipice. As we become more dependent on digital stimulation and productivity apps, we are pushing our brains further and further into the danger zone. We are trade the HD dream for a standard definition nightmare of burnout and panic. The firm foundation of your sanity is a thin crust over a sea of spindly activity. The floor is thinner than you think. The neurons are more aggressive than you imagine. And the tender lullaby of the night is actually a siren of impending cognitive doom. Sleep well, knowing that your brain is smarter than you, and that it is currently deciding your fate in the dark. If you are prepared to face the truths that the world chooses to ignore, stay with us. There are many more biological anomalies and scientific horrors waiting to be unburied. We will continue to explore the truths that have been hidden in the shadows of our own anatomy and the depths of our limitations. Subscribe to Discovered and activate the notification bell. In a world of comfortable delusions and fun facts, we provide the cold, clinical evidence of reality. Do not miss our next report, where we will examine the next impossible or almost possible scenario that threatens the very definition of humanity. See you in the next investigation, or maybe in your next nightmare. Remember, your brain is watching you, even when you think you are gone. The end is within you.